So today I'm going to talk about a couple of things you should know about Vietnam, Da Nang specifically, before you come here, if you're planning to travel here. Just a couple of helpful tips that I didn't really figure out on our first trip. I kind of figured out on our second trip, but now that we're here for the third time, I really have these things figured out. The first one I'm going to talk about is money. So if you use Wise, formerly known as Transferwise, be warned that Wise doesn't process debit card transactions here in Vietnam. So if you like to use your Wise debit card to go to the ATM, or if you like to use your virtual Wise cards to process transactions, you're not going to be able to use Wise as a payment method here in Vietnam. Now, you can use Wise to make bank transfers. No problems with that. You can transfer into Vietnamese bank accounts using Wise, and we've been able to do that this time around, and it works fine. So just know that if you rely a lot on Wise to get cash out of ATMs, you'll need to come up with another method. Now, we use Wise, but we also use Revolut, and Revolut works fine here in Vietnam. Revolut will process debit card transactions here in Vietnam. And so what we have one of our Revolut cards on our Grab apps, for example, so that we can go ahead and use Revolut instead of cash. Just know any transactions that you complete on Revolut using your debit card, there is a little bit of a fee. So for example, the prices are different on Grab if you pay by Revolut versus whether you use cash. So there'll be, I forget what the percentage is, it might be as much as 3%, but just know the prices will increase a little bit if you use Revolut. Next, I'll talk briefly about ATMs. And I guess what I'll say is there are ATMs scattered about Da Nang, but they're not that many overall, and they're not very close together. I'll go ahead and put up on the map here, when you search in Google Maps for ATM, here's what comes up. I will also say that it's not uncommon to go to an ATM here in Da Nang and find that it is empty of cash, especially if you're towards the end of a weekend or towards the end of a holiday period. And because there are not as many ATMs as you might be used to in a densely populated area, everybody's just basically going to use the same few ATMs. Also note that many of the ATMs have a withdrawal limit, and it's fairly low, 2 or 3 million dong per transaction. So you can either do several transactions through an ATM or go to several different ATMs. I think there are a few that let you withdraw up to 10 million dong at a time, but I'm not sure what those are or where they're located. Maybe they're HSBC or Citi. Like I said, I'm not really sure, but there is a limit to the amount of dong you can take out of the ATMs. Because we knew this before we left Thailand, we went to a currency exchange to get some dong so we'd have some cash money on hand when we got here. So that was helpful. Another way to get cash here in Vietnam is via Western Union, believe it or not. Western Union has an app. You can do a transaction through the app using your debit card or your bank account, and then you can go and pick up the money. We've actually done this, and it's worked out really well because you can withdraw a larger amount, so you have your cash money for the month. We don't use our debit cards linked to our US accounts directly in ATMs here, just for an extra level of safety. And I can tell you, I did use my US bank ATM card to pay for an Airbnb, and shortly thereafter I noticed a little fraud on my account. So just in the few weeks that we've been here, I've had to order a new debit card. Obviously that's anecdotal, but for the entire time we were in Thailand, I never used my US banking cards in ATMs, simply because over here in Asia, pretty much everything is paid by bank transfer or QR code. So there's really no need to provide your credit card number for anything. And so I felt like having to do that with my debit card, it just automatically says, hey, here's a card number we can do a little fraud on. Now, this is just my personal experience and my personal opinion, but really you can't be too safe when you're talking about your personal cash accounts. Here in Vietnam, it is mostly a cash society. There are several places where you can tap to pay, but not everywhere accepts tap to pay. And if they do, again, there's likely a fee on top. So I would say cash and bank transfers are going to be your best friend here and will help you perform all the transactions that you need to perform. The only other thing I want to mention about coming to Vietnam, if you're a US citizen, you do need to obtain a tourist visa to gain entry into Vietnam. You can apply for that visa online, and you must be outside of Vietnam to obtain the visa. Well, people might say, well, how are they going to know if you're inside or outside of the country? They know because they've updated their visa system, and they can simply, when they run your visa application, they can see whether or not you're in the country because they can see your immigration record. Basically, when we've applied for our visa this time, because we have applied before in the past, it immediately recognized our information, and most everything auto-populated from our previous visa. So that was definitely an improvement from last year, because the second time we applied last year, we had to re-enter everything again. And so we noticed that difference, and that seemed to make the process go even more quickly, because it only took a couple of days for the visa to get processed in the online system. It's really straightforward and really easy, and Vietnam really has it together with that visa application process. And so once our initial visa is up here and we have to leave the country to apply for another one, we'll let you know a little bit more about that process. So I think that's it for this video. The takeaways are: have your money together as far as cash, some kind of method to take money from the ATMs. Know that you're not going to probably be able to withdraw as much money from the ATMs as you would like at one time. So maybe bring some Vietnamese dong with you from abroad. And two, just know that you do need a visa if you are a US citizen, but the process is very straightforward and very easy applying for the visa online. So as always, thank you for watching, And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.